Hi there, I'm Karen O'Connor of SingWise.com, and today I'm going to talk about singing large intervals. For most of us, singing shorter intervals, thirds or fourths, is not too much of a challenge, but once those intervals start stretching out over a fifth or more, they can become problematic. So today I'm going to share with you a way to approach practicing and mastering these larger intervallic leaps. Many singers are intimidated by large intervals. They actually experience anxiety whenever they're required to sing them because they worry about whether or not they're going to hit that second note in the interval correctly and sound and look beautiful while doing it. At the root of this anxiety is technical insecurity. They don't trust their voices to cooperate, perhaps because they haven't fully worked through the technical aspects of the intervals, including pitch, registration, vowel, and breath management. Large intervals require us to make a number of adjustments in the split second between the first note of the interval and the second note. And we have to be very decisive about those adjustments, or else the interval will be performed very sloppily or otherwise poorly. But we often tend to either overestimate or underestimate the amount of adjustment that we need to make, which leads to incorrect pitch, poor tone, and conspicuous corrections or adjustments like scooping up to the desired note. So when working through large intervals, you can try a couple things. The first involves breaking down the interval into its smallest components rather than attempting to tackle it as a great, big, intimidating whole. So find your balance on each note. Make sure that you know which notes you need to sing and that you're able to produce them well, consistently, with the quality that you desire. Now I'm going to use the Paramore song, The Only Exception, for my example today. It has a descending intervallic leap of a major sixth from D sharp 4 to F sharp 3 on the words you are. You are the only exception. Now when working out the interval, I first sing the notes separately and make sure that I know the pitches that I'm aiming for and find the qualities that I want in each note. I have to make sure that I can sing the individual notes well first. And this is also going to make the interval less intimidating because I'll know that I can indeed sing these notes. You Now, if it helps, we can remove the consonants so that we'll get a better idea of what kinds of adjustments we need to make to the vowel. So in this case, we have the words you are, so we're going to sing ooh, ah. Ooh, 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 ah, ah, ah. So when the interval lands us near the bottom of our range, like my sample song does for me, and when we have to change into the lower register, we want to avoid attempting to reach down for the lower note with the larynx. When we drop the larynx like this, we end up producing an overly dark, hooty timbre. You are. Now the pitch is correct, but it sounds really dark. We don't want to sound like we're singing with two different voices, so we need to stabilize the larynx and ensure that the lower note in the interval has a quality that's similar to that of the higher note. And this is where I employ twang to get some brightness into the lower note. So sometimes just thinking bright will really help. La, 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 you are, you are. Now a second habit that I often hear on descending intervals is inserting a cheater note or a grace note. You are, you are. Now Hayley Williams does this a couple times in the song. This is kind of like putting out the landing gear to cushion and slow the descent. Adding this extra note shortens the interval a tiny bit, making it easier to execute because fewer adjustments are then required. And this approach is fine so long as it's done artistically and intentionally. If you're doing it to cover up a mistake in pitch or because you haven't worked out your technique and it's the only way that you can sing that interval, then you're limiting yourself as a singer and vocal artist. Another approach that can really help to make large intervals less intimidating and more accurately executed is temporarily inserting a glide between the two notes. You are, you are. If performed mindfully and slowly at first, the glide will give us time to think and to make those adjustments that will give us pitch accuracy and the desired tonal quality. We don't necessarily want to do this during a performance, of course, but for practice purposes, it can serve us quite well. Once I have an idea of how much adjustment I need to make and which pitches I need to sing and how I want to sing them, I can then move away from the glide altogether and start performing it as an interval as it's written in the song. So we should be including into our daily vocal routine exercises that incorporate glissandos and portamentos. For example, we can sing something like an octave here. Just focus on the smoothness and the control as you're gliding between the individual notes. We should also be singing other exercises that will extend beyond the third, fifth, and octave intervals that these exercises require. When we regularly practice singing a variety of intervals, we'll have both the skills and the confidence to sing any kind of interval that a song might throw our way. So we can try these same approaches with ascending intervals. First, we balance out the individual notes, ensuring that we can produce them squarely on pitch and with the desired tonal quality. So for our example here, we're going to use Fun Song We Are Young, which has an ascending intervallic leap of a minor sixth from D4 to B flat 4. Right there, fire. Alright, so we're going to balance out the individual notes first. Fa, 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 I know it's a bit heady, but it's that time of the day for me. Fire, fire. Now when it comes to singing ascending intervallic leaps, a common error is overshooting the pitch, usually because the singer drives too hard with the breath, thinking that he or she needs to support the higher note so much more than the lower note. When we use really high subglottal pressure levels, especially when we raise them suddenly, our pitch tends to go sharp. So we need to work on effectively managing our breath by keeping subglottal pressures consistent and steady and appropriate for the pitch and dynamics. In a few weeks, I am going to begin a series of videos on the topic of breath management. Another common technical error that singers make when executing ascending intervallic leaps is undershooting the pitch of the second note. They fall short of the pitch and then they have to scoop up to the intended note. Or they add like a little step stool to give them a boost and effectively shorten the interval. This is essentially the same thing as adding that grace note or cheater note. These habits usually stem from a fear of or nervousness about launching the voice upwards. And when that fear reflex kicks in, they often constrict the throat. This habit stems from anxiety, a fear of heights, so to speak, which again has technical insecurity at its root. So if you break down the interval into its smallest components and solidify your technique on them, then gradually build up to singing the interval, you'll likely bypass this fear reflex and have better success when singing larger intervals. Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope that these tips are helpful for you. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so for more free singing tips and lessons like this one.